Well and doing great on this Tuesday, formerly known as Taco Tuesday. Great to be here with you all. Looking forward to today's session. I'm looking forward to this week. I feel like, I don't know whether or not it's for you, it's the Super Bowl, the World Cup. I think this is the most important week of the year about to take place. And of course, there were many others, right? People could look back to April and the announcement of liberation out of Donald Trump and the United States, and people could look back to that point later in April where he's like, buy, which is actually the very bottom here. Markets have been on an epic ascent since. Such an epic ascent before that, markets have never have coming out of a 20% drawdown have been at such high of a track. Not only that, going back to two previous years, S&P 500, 20% plus years, potentially here continuing this massive drive. I didn't have time to put a thumbnail yet on today's video, and I apologize for that. We were last second. We're here though, and I'm glad to be here. This week, hold on one second. Let me get going here. This week, tomorrow, we have an event that I've been looking forward to for quite a while. We have FOMC. Expectations are actually that the Fed is going to stop QT, and I'm interested to see what do they do with the balance sheet. Are we going to see a return to an expansion of the balance sheet, regardless of all the arguments that will ensue out on X? It's not QE. It's not outright purchase of securities. It is bullish for liquidity, and the last time it happened, risk actually melted up. Literally, 2019, once they started expanding their balance sheet, NASDAQ went on an 18% run. It was stopped when they locked down the globe. We're watching if that happens. We're going to be watching the pace. And we only have in 2019, early 2020 to compare it to. But we will compare it and see what happens. We have after the bell on Wednesday. I don't think the Fed is even the main event on Wednesday. I think the main event over here is going to be Microsoft, Meta, and Alphabet. I can't stand calling them Alphabet. They should have just kept their name Google. Google's cool. Alphabet's not. Yeah, I mean, I know the next day is Amazon and Apple. I don't think that's as important as Wednesday. Of course, all Mag 7 is important. Some people might be looking at MicroStrategy on the 30th. That's non-event. Thank goodness we know when to be in the market, when out, and on what side. When it comes to MicroStrategy or strategy, people changing the names all the time. Listen, if all goes well though, that sets up the rest of the week. I feel like, I mean, man, this is the week. We have Thursday, Trump meeting with President Xi, and they're expected to be finalizing what is an arrangement between two. I don't even want to call it a deal. If it's a deal, great, but I think it's going to be some type of arrangement. And you could see Trump and his tweets continue moving markets, but it looks like they're going to be meet. When Trump says something like, I think the meeting with Z will work out, likely it's going to work out. It seems that, we have every reason to be bullish that we're going to get through this week with a positive outcome from the Fed, with a positive outcome from, not even positive, Fed going full on bullish, I mean dovish here. Monetary policy is going to be getting in line. Then we have, of course, if we see further extension of the great spending for the AI race, and then we have China and US coming to some type of an arrangement, and China's out there buying soybeans, it's on. The seasonalities into the end of the year have every reason. I'm going to be so bullish. And that means that if we finally get some entries following through, by the way, Ethereum stopped out of this recent trade, about 1.7%. We still see Bitcoin continuing to hold over here in its trade. And we have NVIDIA in the market, FNGU in the market, 2 and 3.5%. It's why you got to have the stocks and the allocation we have between stocks and then Bitcoin and crypto and the allocation we have between them. And together that diversification is just, it just keeps you on the right side. We have IBIT and now we have Tesla pending long for tomorrow. So all of a sudden we're seeing, positions starting to really file in. And if we get a positive outcome, I have a feeling that the bulls are going to be running, and I have a feeling we're going to see Ethereum, Cardano, and Solana also on the long side. I would not be surprised November, December, at some point we have 100% allocation on the buy side between stocks and crypto, and that would be honeymoon. That would be absolutely glorious. Now, of course, that might not happen, and that's why we're watching to see. But I have good expectations about it. I'm certainly looking forward to hopefully what is a positive outcome. Some people might be thinking the Nasdaq is way too far extended, and yes, I have it right here, J-Core. I pulled up for you right now. We'll look at that right now. Some people might be thinking, well, the Nasdaq is just way too extended. And I think this is probably pretty good. And by the way, this is, the 2008 peak over here. And markets don't need to necessarily, we always talk about channels, upward sloping, downward sloping. When they break down, usually that's going to be like a big impulse that ends the move. Same thing on the upside. When they break out to the upside, usually that's the impulse that's going to end the move. It's why I talk about if Bitcoin is able to break out to the upside, we're looking at, the March top so far, 2025 top. This structure that we're currently holding right now in the sustainable channel, if that breaks to the upside, I expect accelerated price action. And then is when I'm looking for a larger drawdown, probably the largest drawdown of this cycle since the bull market breakout. And that likely is somewhere in the neighborhood of potentially around 40%. But until that happens, I'm not looking for that unless we got a technical breakdown. That could be bad news bears, but we're not there right now. That's not the story that we see happening. And you could say that, well, here's the Nasdaq breaking out of the channel, and a lot of people are like, oh, .com, Warren Buffett indicator, man. Warren Buffett has been, but guys, back in February 2020, Warren Buffett had a record amount of cash on the sidelines, $160 billion. And then the markets crashed. Not only did the markets crash, Powell comes in and he's like, I'm flooding the system. And Warren didn't put any of that money to work. Man, markets 5 years ago are significantly lower than they are today. And Warren, look, he missed the ball. Forget rat poison. He just missed it. He could have invested in anything. He could have invested in the index. It wouldn't even matter. People talking today, Warren's got all this cash out on the sidelines. He knows what's coming. Well, he's had that cash on the sidelines and growing for the past 5 years. He missed one of the greatest back-to-back years in markets, the last 2 years, going on 3 now. I think what happened personally is that if you go back to 2008, Warren Buffett got like a layup from the government. He got to buy what was it, Ford, and he got to do it with the backstop. Like he had put up $5 billion and they backstopped him. And I feel like this is his penalty. Well, Warren, we did for you. Now you got to do for us, and we need someone to own these treasuries. I don't know if that's true or not. We don't have to go up. And by the way, you can't compare the .com bubble to what's happening right now because this was all like speculation. The Mag 7, they are cash cows. They are earning billions and billions. Does that mean that we're not in a bubble or that this won't end badly? No, none of that. Of course, likely this is going to end very badly. I get very worried very worried if we're able to reaccelerate, which I expect that we are. By the way, did anyone get a peek over here? We had ADP employment signaling a rebound in the labor market. Are we going to be seeing at some point ahead the narrative become reacceleration? And if they're able to pull it off and actually begin to run this thing hot, and we get towards what would be bubble territory, like mega bubble, right? Does this end badly? Look at this. This was nothing but a mean reversion anyway. Here's the breakout to the upside. Boom, back into the mean reversion. Obviously, it wasn't done yet. Mega, mega, mega destruction. I hope that we're on the right side and all over it. J-Core, a lot of people could think that we are very, very, very overbought, and this is unreasonable, and it's a sell the news type event this week. And this weekend, Bitcoin is, what a pleasure to be able to have Bitcoin trading 24/7, because like what's happening Sunday with Bitcoin is going to be a huge tell for where markets are headed at Asia Open on Monday in Asia. And I mean, I'm so excited for everything that's about to take place in the next 72 hours or so. And I hope that the bulls actually get the key to really stampede. I would love for that to happen. We got flows into the end of the year, definitely signaling as such. Outside any type of curveball, like Trump saying, all right, Z, whatever, we don't want to, you're not buying the soybeans, we're done. 100% tariffs, 150%, 1000% tariffs, whatever he's going to do. But it looks like, unfortunately, it looks like it's not Trump that's tacoing out in this situation. And it does appear that it is Z who's actually folding. We're going to find out. Let's take a look. So I'm starting over here, and I hope you could see. I know those lines are light. We're gonna get into it. We're streaming in 4K, so hopefully that you could see. And I just want you to give me the liberty for 1 second as we get into the present to kind of just take a little bit of look at what's going on over here. And it's all crazy. And I just want you to see if I put this line over here and I'm moving this one. And if you look to the right of where the mouse is, or let's put it right here, where the mouse is right here, that touch, and you could see that, okay, I see that structure. And you could see the resistance over here, resistance. You can see again, it's resistance. And again, it's resistance and resistance. And then over here, it's actually support. It broke up. And then that's the support, it breaks. And you could see that, okay, that little angle that Jordan's given us is structure. And I can move it down over here. And I could actually move it to right here. And you could see, all right, that's structure. And over here, and you could move it up a little bit, and you could see that it's structure. And I'm sure I can move it elsewhere. And I'm moving it here right now. And you can see the 1 touch, the 2 touch, 3 touches. And yes, if I move it down here, you could see that 1 touch and 2 touch. And point being, it's not like support and resistance, and these are strong support and resistance. It just happens to be the structure. I'm over here in 2020, and during the crash and up, and then the area over here. And if you give me that liberty of assuming that, all right, maybe that's structure, and then you see these lines, those are the lines that we were just looking at. These lines are, there's a gazillion of them. So that's why I showed you the other thing first. And you could see the same, you could see the structure. It just, for whatever reason, it continues to hold. And I'm going to get in here to where we are in the present. And there's a gazillion lines. And this is for my own chicken scratch. I'm not trying to explain this to anyone, because if I saw someone present this chart, I'd be like, what are you doing? So this is for my own, and you can see even here, this is, by the way, this was the last time I looked at this was actually months ago. And you could see that these lines still providing resistance, the structure, the gap up came into that broken resistance over the weekend, held as support on the open, and there you are right now. So J Core is looking for, do we have any idea of what potential resistance would be? So I'm zooming out. By the way, this is probably the most important. That little green dot, that's when DeepSeek was first launched. And that was when that big mega sell-off occurred. And then price jumped up. This is when we lost it. The DeepSeek low, we lost it on the retest. And that was during that helped us know to be very, very bearish at that particular moment. And then this is when Trump says buy. And then you could see after the DeepSeek was regained in May, look at the perfect retest of it. So that's a rare horizontal, and it's green to remind myself that that was the DeepSeek low over there. So resistance, and I'm gonna just zoom out for a second. I don't know if that makes it easier or harder for y'all to say. We got I have the red line over here, J Core, everyone else, and then the white one above it. So the red one is coming off of this touch. I haven't looked at this in forever, so I'm just kind of reacquainting myself as we see that that's a line of interest right now. So I have this area here. This was obviously an area that held as support. Here it was tested, it broke, it was holding as resistance. Light resistance. I'm trying to see the magnitude of this line. Retested again over here a couple of times. I don't think it deserves to be red. Let me actually just change the color over here because it's not like I'm not going to do that now. And then the one above it, you can see this is where that was hanging out as support, resistance, support again. And that's why this area is in play over here. That's near-term resistance. It's actually the same level that I gave you yesterday from a different angle, different vantage point. Yesterday, I just took this green line and was looking off the top over here. And I said, 26,250, 26,350 in that area. That's exactly where we have that overhead resistance right now. Now, I don't think that's big resistance. That's the resistance from this area. Look over, hold on one second. You can see that was also tested back over here. It held as support and over here. So that's why that line is in there. So what's above that, if we're able to overcome this on what is a mega bullish outcome? We have some events this week between what is going to be a dovish Fed, between what's going to be likely positive Mag 7 earnings, and then what is likely going to be a positive summit. And all those things could lead to a really strong move, right? I imagine I'm not selling that news. You could, but I'm not looking to sell that news. And if our positioning takes us out of the market, thank God we know when to be in the market, went out and went outside. Because if we're coming off discretionary and those three things go well, I am so bullish on it that I can't help it. Big shout out to those here live with us. And so that's one area. We would get above it. What's after that? So this bright line over here that you're seeing here, I think should be down over here. I don't know why, but the reason I'm moving it down here is I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Look how that structure works. Here it was support, lost it, flipped back to support. And that's a big area, you know. I think that if we're able to break above here, that and hold this line at that point, J Cora, we have these two rooms. This one I'm highlighting here, you could just look back over here and see why, and then the one above it, and that's much higher. I mean, I don't know on what type of time frame that. Yeah, that's not really that big of a deal now, is it? Into the end of the year. So that's the pocket that we would be watching for on a strong move as areas of resistance. J Cora, if you tag me inside the Discord, I could share this chart in the Discord, and then you'd be able to kind of look off of those levels. And then what happens if we clear above it? like in the future. Like we got to get here first. Breaking above, we want to hold this area. If we're holding this area, we're targeting this pocket in over here. And then you could see that we have this one touch. I don't know what's going on over there. Let's look at this one here. Like there's there's that high over here. There's nothing else. I'm looking back and there's no, but it's there. That's why it gets all fuzzy with many lines. So that's a point of interest. And then over here, you could see that would be mega outside resistance. I want to go back and look at that. So you could see over here, this resistance, right? And then look how it was resistance over here. We have the wicks over there, so that why that line is up there. And then over here, we have the touches over here. And then again, this is breaks above it, right? That resistance, support broke below it. So that's an outside area above the next leg up. We get above this area, and we have this to contend with in there, right? And then that's crazy. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that this is way too advanced to put out in the public, which is why I don't. I get it. You look at those lines and if someone showed me these lines, I'd be like, well, you're an idiot. What do you know? But I can't take you that far in the public into the matrix. I've tried before. I've done it before. It's not just the NASDAQ, and it's totally crazy. And for whatever reason, you could see that Bitcoin has these lines too. This is not even the structure of Bitcoin, right? Let me find out where I have the structure. I don't really want to do it for you. I don't know where I have it. But as it turns out, if you go back the last 14 years on Bitcoin, you have the same structure that repeats throughout. And listen, if you get it, you get it. I don't really have time to explain it to you, nor do I care. I really don't. Those that are able to really understand signal and want to invest their time, this is the place. I want to take everyone with us. There's no doubt. Like all love, and we want everyone to excel. But at this point, people have put 5 years in to learning, and that's all I could say. Um, so here we are. We're running into, by the way, another headline I have to share with you. You saw that the Japan's financial minister like giving some verbal at the behest of Treasury Secretary Bessent having to step in with some, and the yen reacting. But that move is not gonna look. Here we are at the Japanese yen. Why is there structure for the Japanese yen that holds, and what are all those lines, and why do they just happen to? Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. There are a lot people a lot smarter than me that can tell you why. I could just tell you what it is. There was this geometric account, and he's like, how do you like why do you have the same line in me as Bitcoin? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just looked at the chart and put a line there. And he's like, well, the mathematical calculation that forms that is, but, and then I showed him like an old, I don't know. I just been looking at this since before you even had an account. And I don't know why, but I know what is. And this is the dance, you know? Nice. Kind of also, I think part of me is hoping the Bulls get to run. 2025 has actually been outside of the March and April into May V, just really like very, you know, it's been tough. It's a tough year. It's a tough market. I know that that contraction is gonna beget volatility. I'm hoping the Bulls are let loose. Yeah, the T triple Q. Let me check that out with you. It's a great question. It's the ST2, I believe. Let me take a look, Eli. Um, so anyway, I don't think that move, that verbal intervention, is gonna be lasting here on the yen, and that the yen will likely continue. its ascent up and selling off. 160 is a big number, huh? Here you got support, broke down, tested as resistance on the way up over there. That whole number, psychological number. But let me just jump over, take a look at what's holding up T triple Q and T triple Q. It's ST2, and it's unfortunate because it's running away, but it is. And I have to say, T triple Q is super solid performer, super solid. It might, let me just go back and see what we're looking at over here. That's the last year. That's tough. And I said it's been a tough year, and certainly it is, right? Go back 2 years. This is our worst, so consistent. So look at that. And the good news is for me, I'm like, all right, man, mentally this is taking a lot of fortitude, working through this, but markets mega run or mega turmoil, either way, that volatility is what we want, and we're a lot closer. I think this week could be the week. This could be a big window. I know that started last weekend. Last weekend we saw that it appears that the places have been put into place for a positive outcome for this week's summit. And there were some power moves. I didn't talk about them because that's not my area of forte, so to speak. But you could see that the U.S. was able to circumvent making some deals on that trip where they were able to source some rare earth materials. And because of that, that took a lot of the negotiation power away from China. And it seems that China's actually, like, they had no choice we'll find out if that's correct or not. Um, yeah, no, but you have to be so. I saw a post from this guy Graham Stephan. I remember Graham Stephan back in 2020, and a very popular YouTuber, and he was like, if you have, for those that have $1 million or more, how are you allocated right now? Most of those people were allocated in like money markets and like 3% into equities, and because they don't know what to do, right? And obviously, 3 or 4% is not keeping up with inflation. That doesn't. I guess they're preserving capital, and if you don't know how to invest, I think that's the best thing. Anyway, everyone, short today. Tomorrow, I mean, tomorrow's going to be the anticipation. We're gonna be like, waiting for the FOMC to begin, and then after the FOMC, it's after the bell. Thursday, we're gonna have a lot to talk about, and maybe sometimes you get lucky. Maybe we are gonna have a positive outcome, and maybe T Triple Q is not in over here, but it's nice that I hope it's nice, but FNGU certainly is. NVIDIA certainly is. So much. Everyone, lots of love. Big shout out, everyone here live. Have a beautiful day, everyone. I'll see you all back on the inside.